If a classic arcade shooter with updated graphics and extra chaos sounds good to you, Iridium might be right for you. I'm Nima. I want to talk about a game I got recently, Iridium. Now, in the game, you are the Earth's last hope, as Earth is being bombarded by aliens, and it is your job to suppress the attack, break the defense, and ultimately save planet Earth. Much more than that, I can't tell you too much because it's an arcade shooter, and these stories are always kind of flimsy and, kind of single celled, if you will. These games are mostly dominated by the gameplay and that, like, fast, chaotic style of shooter, which I think this game does a fairly good job at capturing. At the same time, I think there's things that they could do to kind of, I don't know, fast track that process. Number one, every enemy has a shield. And I get that for some of like the big enemies you fight, or even every other enemy. I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but like the smaller enemies really shouldn't have shields because it just feels like you're constantly trying to kill these enemies while there's a ton of other ones around you. And I just don't feel like that gives you that sense of accomplishment in these kind of games or the high score mechanic. Because, like you said, with these kind of games, it's never about the story. It's never about, like, oh man, I'm so interested in the narrative of what's going on. We don't even have a character name. We don't even have, I mean, honestly, it says Earth at some point, but we don't even know, what year it had. Nothing. So the whole premise of these games is high score, lots of action, lots of chaos. But when you throw shields on these enemies, it really slows down the gameplay because it takes a lot to kill a lot of these enemies. Like, they really are kind of like bullet sponges, and it's, I don't know, for me, I think they could have went different with that. And maybe not have had, so many enemies with shields because there is a ton of enemies on the screen and you're constantly just kind of like flying back and forth. You're not really sure exactly, what you're going for. You're going for the objectives in the stage, which I think also, like, it gives you an angle, it gives you a purpose, but at the same time, you could just basically bypass as many enemies as possible, complete the objectives, and go on. But you're not getting the score, and it does seem like, what am I playing this game for? There is very little narrative, like I've said. So ultimately, I feel like you're just kind of chasing your tail on this one. Now, like in the OLED, this game looks beautiful. The graphics in general look really wonderful. I think they did a fantastic job with bringing it to a modern game console. My only problem is I think they did that visually, and I don't know about gameplay wise. And I say that because I found this game to be so much like a mobile game. Like, I'll play for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, and then I've had my fill. There are so many games, like a lot of twin stick shooters and stuff, that you kind of keep playing in a roguelike style to continue going further, seeing how much more you can accomplish, how much further you can press the limits of of your character and of your own capacity. And I didn't feel that with this. I just simply felt like, okay, I'm going to play for a little bit. I'm going to probably die without any sort of explanation as to why I died. And yes, that happens a lot. Like, and some enemies can just run into you and you die. Some enemies can just run into you and you're fine. You can crash into random walls sometimes and it's okay. Other times you're dead. Your shield regenerates at weird times. It doesn't always explain these things to you. And that's the other thing about the game, where if you wanted maybe a more linear story focused game where the player is supposed to care about the narrative, then I think you should also explain details about the game. They just set you out like it is a classic arcade shooter where there is no explanation of anything on the HUD. The controls are a mystery. It's just here you go. And you kind of go with instinct from the, games that you remember back in the day. And that's fine, like I said. But then you try to then simultaneously slow it down, adding barriers like these shields that are just bullet sponges, and at the same time, like, throwing in objectives as well. So it really, I feel like this game doesn't have an identity. I think what it's trying to do is reinvent the wheel, and I don't know. I think they missed the mark, especially for the price. Like I paid about, I think it was $13 or $14 for it. $13 or $14 on a Nintendo Switch now can get you a game that you could sink a lot more time into and get so much more out of your money. Now, if you like this kind of game, I think you're going to enjoy it, but I just don't know the target audience, and I don't know how many people are going to be that interested in this game. Like I said, it's a $14, $15 game for something that I really don't see much more than, like, I don't know, 20, 30-minute sessions at max. And as where I've kept it on my Switch to do just that, it's rarely a game that I'm looking to play. Anyway, I'm kind of curious what you guys think, how your feelings are. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, some of you might be fans of the arcade shooters, and you say, "Oh no, this is really, really good." I did actually have a couple of my friends who are like retro fans play it, and they kind of gave me a lot of the same input. They didn't like how it kind of simultaneously slowed you down while also embracing the chaos and the speed of the game. But anyway, I'm curious what you guys think. I appreciate y'all. Take care.